I'm going to tie my version of a Vladi worm, and I'm starting off, this is actually a size 8 bass bug hook in the vise, and to give it the proper shape I'm going to put a bend in at about the 2/3 mark of the hook shank. I'll take a pliers to it and give it a slight upward bend. You can buy specialized hooks, but I'm a big fan of using kind of what you got. To add some weight to this, I'll take my wraps of lead. I'll start just behind the high point of the hook shank, and I'll wrap that all the way down and stop just behind where I put my bend. And I'll break off each piece front and back, and then I can tie in my thread. And for this, I'm going to use a 140 brown. You can probably get away with a 70 or even an 8/0. And I'm going to start that at the bend, and I'll take my wraps through the lead a couple of times to make sure it's in nice and secure. Now in the original pattern it calls for some tippet material to act as a rib and then tie in the body material that you're going to use. I'm going to tie it a little bit different. I'll use this virtual nymph skin, and I'm going to take it in a brown, and I'll cut a strip that's maybe 4 or 5 inches in length, and I'll put a slight taper into one end, and I'll tie that in, and I'll stretch it down as far down the hook as I want it to go. Now instead of tying material and taking multiple wraps back and forth, I want to preserve the texture of this material, which is real nice and soft. And instead of doubling it back and forth, I'm going to dub the body underneath and then wrap the skin just once and rely on it as well to provide that segmented look. So I'm going to take some dry fly dubbing, and this is a brown. It's not going to show through unless you use some of the transparent material, so not real important what color you use here. And then I'll dub in what I want this body to look like. So I'll work through this taper, and this gives it, again, a little more cushion underneath that nymph skin. So one more stretch up. And maybe a little bit more here in the front. And then I'll leave my hook just behind leave my thread just behind the eye. Now I can take this nymph skin and wrap it up the hook shank. I'll do relatively loose wraps again so that it has a good texture to it. And I'm taking about half of the previous wrap, coming over about half the previous wrap, and you can see it gives that segmented look, and it covers well. You don't have to double it over. And when I get to my thread, I'll tie it off. And then pull this tight and trim it, and then build out a little thread head here. and whip finish. And trim, and then a drop of head cement. We'll finish it up. If you'd like, you can color one of those segments a different color to provide some visual interest. But my take on a great pattern, the Vladi worm.